Isang masayang buhay sa lahat. Ang tatalakayin ko po sa araw na ito ay ang indicator number 8, adapted and used culturally appropriate teaching strategies to address the needs of learners from indigenous groups. Okay, so ito po yung ating mga legal basis. At ang indicator number 8 ay ito at i-observe po sa atin sa second and fourth quarter. Okay, kasama po ng indicators 1, 2, 3, at ang 7 at saka 9. Okay, sa mga master teachers, number 7 po siya. Parehas po i-observe sa second and fourth quarter. Okay, so let me start my discussion with the key concepts. Adoption and implementation are processes involved to suit learning programs and execute plans for them in addressing learning needs. Adoption of a learning program may contextualize, modify, or localize the current plan, while implementation of a learning program entails preparation of needs assessment, understanding of goals, setting and following guidelines, conduct relevant activities, teacher resources, setting a timetable, and monitoring and evaluation. Okay, we have the learning program. It's an organized and sequenced set of strategies, activities, and tasks that affect or effect learning. It refers to the various step-by learning programs that are responsive and relevant to the needs of all learners. Okay, responsiveness refers to the PED's commitment of quality, equitable, culture-based, and complete education for all through all its learning programs. It highly considers context of learning in an increasingly diverse learners, schools, and communities. Ang relevance refers to the appropriateness of the PED learning program to students' learning needs based on their interests, inclinations, cultural background, gender, and other aspects that need important considerations. It may be connected in some ways to real-world issues, problems, and contexts. Okay, so needs of all learners refers to the important aspects of all learners, such as physical, social, intellectual, emotional, and psychological challenges that need to be addressed by the learning programs of DepEd. These needs may include those with various exceptionalities, context of learning, and sensitivity to culture. And so we have the DepEd learning programs here, overview, and relevant DepEd orders. So the first one is the Philippine Education for All or EFA. Okay, so ito yung overview niya at mga DepEd orders. Next, we have Every Child a Reader Program, ECARP. And then the Language Literacy and Numeracy Program, we have the ELLN. Okay, Multi-Grade Program in Philippine Education, Special Education, and we also have the Indigenous Peoples Education or IPED. Now, this program aims to make education accessible to our brothers and sisters who belong to Indigenous groups. This means that they have a fair share in receiving quality education. So, localized teaching strategies should be developed to address their needs. Okay, so how do we do this? Culturally responsive teaching practices can improve academic outcomes for Indigenous learners. However, Indigenous peoples are a heterogeneous group with unique histories, languages, cultural practices, and ways of operating within the classroom. One approach to culturally responsive teaching that works with one Indigenous learner may not necessarily work with another. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? Anong ibig sabihin sa ating teaching strategies? So we should have various teaching strategies and be very aware kung ilan at anong klaseng grupo yung learner natin. Okay, so that we will be equipped with various teaching strategies to address their needs. Because remember, parang nagdi-deal ka lang sa mga regular na estudyante kung hindi akma yung strategy mo dun sa isa or kung akma man, pwedeng hindi akma sa isa. So you should have or you should use differentiated instruction as they say. So here are ways to adopt and implement culture-based education to Indigenous learners. Number 1, know cultural needs. Okay, know, alamin. So minsan, sa pakikipagkwentuhan natin because um, you are trying to win and to learn your learners as a person. So, minsan nakikipagkwentuhan ka and with that, um, na na lalaman mo kung ano yung mga cultures and tradition nila that will enable you to make or craft strategies for your learners. Okay, so let me continue. Indigenous learners can avoid direct eye contact on adult as it is considered rude in their culture. When teachers misinterpret Indigenous learners' classroom behavior, it may be considered as soft racism. Indigenous learners are also less likely to answer questions in the classroom because traditionally their culture has been passed on through the telling of stories. Use storytelling with visual cues in your teaching to support Indigenous learners better rather than having them read and process materials directly. Okay, so these are tips on how you address the learning needs of your learners belonging to an indigenous group. Okay. Another is give them equal opportunity like other learners. Make them feel that they belong, of course. If there are only few indigenous learners, teachers might ignore them and expect them to deliver low results or victimize them. Just like everyone else, there are many indigenous people who become successful in their chosen fields. So do not disregard them. Um, as I've said, they should feel that they belong to the class. Okay. Relate examples to your environment and community. Teaching Indigenous learners needs to convey a relatedness, which is a key feature of Indigenous worldviews. It stems from the connectedness to every living thing, which is the foundation of Indigenous tradition, culture, and spirituality, including local stories and achievements also helps Indigenous learners feel more valued and accepted and boost their sense of identity. So, hayaan mo silang magkwento. Okay? And ma-relate yung kanilang buhay sa pinag-aaralan. Okay? Next, be aware of a greater sense of autonomy. Indigenous children have been raised to be independent individuals with a right to express their needs and opinions and have them taken seriously, but a strong character can get them into trouble in a classroom. Many behavior problems can be managed and properly addressed by taking the time to listen and be emphatic to the learners. Okay, so you have to listen to them. So I've said you give quality time for you to talk with the learners so you could understand. Okay, you could understand them, and understanding them means you are able to craft strategies to address their needs. Okay, next, include community spirit. Indigenous learners are more used to working for the collective good rather than focusing on individual achievement. It is foreign for them to be tested as individuals for their knowledge when their usual context is seeing what the group can achieve collectively. Every morning, learners and often parents may play traditional games in morning assembly. Parents and guardians often join sack races and tugs of war at sports carnivals and eat lunch with children. Okay, so they are they should not be taken as individual, but as a group. Okay, that's community spirit. Number 6, use Indigenous learners' first language as resource. Teachers should explain things in more than one way and more than once to enable Indigenous learners to understand and learn. Indigenous culture knowledge was passed on through repetitive storytelling. Indigenous children should be taught in their first language before introducing second languages. Okay, so pwede ba sila, say for example, mahiyain siya, si learner mo na iPad, mahiyain, hindi niya ma-express ang sarili niya with the second language or your medium of instruction, say for example, English or even Tagalog, then you allow him or her to use her or his dialect to express his or her ideas. Okay? That is yung addressing indicator 7. Okay? The language. And then you may interpret. Okay? or translate for him to understand your medium of instruction also. Okay. Next, promote indigenous culture. For indigenous learners to have a full productive life, they need to receive an education that enhances and promotes their culture. Teachers can encourage cultural pride through programs such as music and dance. So isasali sila. Pwede silang sumayaw, wag mo silang pilitin kung ayaw nila ng modern, but they have to showcase their culture. Okay. Prepare indigenous learners for walking in two worlds. Ano itong ibig sabihin nito? Many indigenous people are afraid of losing their children to a bigger world and their children losing their identity and culture. So educational systems designed to Western standards give indigenous people little to motivate them to have faith. On the contrary, many feel disrespected and marginalized. Teaching both worlds might be the answer to these problems. I said teaching both worlds. So um, you have to explain their side and the outside world. Okay. Meet me halfway. Parang ganon, ano. But anong gamit ng mga strategies na ito? Ng mga alam mong strategies to address the needs of the learners belonging to indigenous group kapag sa classroom mo, during the classroom observation, ay wala kang estudyanteng ganito. Diba? So, wala. Paano ka i-grade ng rater mo? Okay? First, kasi, during the observation, dapat alam ni rater na may iPad ka. Kung wala naman, dapat alam din niya para ma-explain mo sa kanya o mabigyan ka na kanya ng situation. Siguro ganun na lang ang gagawin ni rater. No? Bibigyan ka na lang ng situational question. If you have an iPad learner, what are you going to, anong strategy mo to address his or her needs pag ganito? Parang ganun na lang siguro. Kasi wala eh. Ano magagawa natin? Wala. Okay, but if you have, you can make use of these strategies na na-discuss ko. Okay, so just the same, if you feel that this channel helped you understand indicator number 8, please do like and share. Thank you so much.